Hello again guys, and welcome back to another House of Devlin video. I'm Big Al Devlin, and today we're going to continue with our Drink of the Gods series that we've started here. This will be the third sample bottle that I was given for my birthday from the Lancashire Mead Company, and the tipple, so to speak, is called Freya's Mead. Okay, and it's part of their Dragon's Breath brand of drinks. It has an average of, well, it has a 14.5% alcohol content. Was bottled in November 2017, this particular bottle, and is 100 ml or 10 cl. And handcrafted and bottled by the Lancashire Mead Company, as mentioned before. I'm quite looking forward to this. It's got a very golden honey colour to it, much more than the other meads that I've had a look at, which is quite appropriate because, of course, being called Freya's mead, Freya, one of the things that represents Freya is amber. And honey as well, actually. So, because she was the goddess of gold, but that could be, as I say, sort of translated into both amber and honey. And so, often, if you wanted to be closer to Freya, you would wear amber jewelry, for example, or and use honey in ceremonies and things like this. Now, I'm going to read to you the ingredients, and then I'm going to read to you their sort of description of the drink, but also the description of Freya as a sort of little introduction to what the goddess Freya is about, and how they've implemented that kind of personality into the wine, so to speak. It's a honey wine, so that's correct to say, but the mead, I suppose, to be more specific. There is a mistake in their description of Freya. They describe her at the end as basically being the guide and companion of Viking heroes on their way to Valhalla. That's wrong. I'll get into that a little bit as I talk about it, but this is not a paganism video, it's a drink review video, so it's a minor technicality regards the content of this video, but nonetheless they should be, at least, if the Lancashire Mead Company ever watch my videos, they should at least learn from their mistakes and know when they put bullshit up, basically. If you're a pagan, you'll know exactly what I'm going on about. She is often misrepresented as a Valkyrie, and quite rightfully she is represented as sometimes a queen of the Valkyries. I don't know why. It's a bit of a weird representation, seeming the Valkyries come from Odin, but there we go. I suppose it's just her appearance. Okay, so basically, let's not get tied down into that. Let's get on to talking about the drink itself, give the intro, give the description of the fermentation process, and of course the sampling. Now, the first thing to know is the ingredients. I've told you the percentage and the bottling date and so on and so forth, and the name of the mead. It's made with water, honey, orange, which is not from concentrate, and yeast nutrient. And as you'll see later, that's important because they've only added a yeast nutrient. They've used the natural yeast found within the honey itself. So this is a very natural product, and I'll be interested to see how that influences the taste of the mead, because if you look at Age's mead, for example, they add yeast into it. And this apparently tastes fairly similar, but is more suitable for sort of people with a different palate still, nonetheless, even though it's got a fruity taste to it, because of the orange being added into the fermentation process. It's a little bit more suitable for people who like cider and white wine, rather than Age's mead, which is suitable for basically anyone, pretty much, because it's just got a sort of just a very flavoursome flavour that pretty much pleases everyone. Okay, right, so they say here that Freya, the Old Norse meaning for lady, which is correct, is one of the preeminent goddesses in Norse mythology. Again, correct. She is the goddess associated with love, beauty, fertility, war, wealth, divination and magic. Yeah, correct. Freya also served as a guide and companion on the journey to Valhalla for many Viking heroes who had died nobly. Incorrect. That was the Valkyries. She had first claim over the souls of Viking heroes, the first half, before Odin sent his Valkyries and claimed the rest of them that they wanted to take. Obviously, they wouldn't take everyone, but you know, the half that they would take. And she took them to her own hall, which was not Valhalla, it was Sessrumnir, which was in an area of Asgard called Fortvangir. So it's just a minor thing, but nonetheless, I thought obviously I'll just correct that little mistake they've made there. Now, regards to the mead itself, and this is the stuff that they know about, so they might not know much about paganism beyond what they've Wikipedia'd or whatever, but they do know their mead, and they describe the mead as a melomel, which again means a fruited honey mead, and it's created using wild flower honey. It is wild fermented, which means that that no yeast is added. They simply use the natural yeast presented in the actual honey itself, and has freshly squeezed orange juice added to the fermentation process. The addition of the orange juice gives it a slightly softer and fruitier taste, making it a firm favourite with drinkers of cider and medium sweet white wines. Now, I hate both of those drinks. Don't go near them. Hate them. A bit of Scrumpy Jack, yeah, okay, fair enough. But that's a fairly specialist cider. But even then, it's still not a drink that I would drink copious amounts of or anything like that. It's just, you know, it's the best of a bad bunch for me. You know, they're not my, and I don't like white wines. Okay, so for me, I'm sort of going into this kind of feeling a little bit down and disappointed because Freya is, as a pagan, my actual patron goddess. So I want to enjoy this, but from what I've read, it sounds like I'm not going to. But when I look at the ingredients, it's got orange in there, which has been added to you know, and it's got a fruity taste essentially as a result of that. Because it is a fruited honey mead. I'm expecting it will be similar to Aegir's mead, but more of a mead and less of a fruity mead, if you know what I mean. I'm hoping the honey is the most dominant flavour, which it was a very dominant aftertaste in Aegir's mead, but the honey initially wasn't there. It was a very strong fruitiness at the beginning, a very light fruitiness, followed by a very strong honey aftertaste that lasted a long time. I'm hoping with Freya's mead we get a hit from the honey a lot quicker, okay, and a lot stronger hit, because really that's kind of really the personality of Freya. You know, the honey, amber and honey are, as I say, are things that are related to the goddess. Right, so I've broken the seal, and it's time to have our first little taste. First taste, I tend to just drink it, get an initial impression, and then the second taste, which I'll do in a bit after discussing my initial taste, I'll hold it in the mouth much longer and allow the flavour to really sort of develop. So here we go, first taste. Okay. We may find that the aftertaste changes over time. Whenever I've done a review, the aftertaste is quite lingering with these meads. It's nice, and it changes its qualities as we go along. So if I suddenly stop talking, it's just because I'm trying to interpret the aftertaste that's in my mouth. Initial impressions are, I can definitely, it tastes like a mildly fruity white wine when held in the mouth. It even has that same sort of sourness almost that wine sometimes has, you know, because it's made out of grapes. It's fermented grapes. It's slightly sour. In my, that's the way I'm trying to describe it. You know, that sourness that you get in cider as well, to be honest, that you don't get in things like whiskey and that, for example. That is very strong. It's very much there. It tastes like you are drinking, as I say, a kind of fairly fruity or yeah, or as they say here, sweet white wine. Very much so. And then the aftertaste, I'm a little disappointed with it, has the aftertaste of what you'd expect from cider. It doesn't taste like cider, but it has a very similar feel to cider, the aftertaste, and it hasn't changed. It's still in my mouth now, still quite potent. In fact, what it is, I know what it is. It's actually the wild honey. Okay, I'm actually having a very long, strong aftertaste of honey, but it's not the honey that we're kind of used to. That sweet, very mellow taste of honey. This is a much more sort of it's a completely different taste, really, wild honey. But you can taste the wild honey in it, absolutely, and it's still in my mouth now. And you know what? I'm kind of getting used to it, and it's kind of like, yeah, I'd like a bit more of that now that I'm sort of doing it. But when I first drank it, and the first experience, the initial experience of it tasting like a white wine, as I say, I don't like white wine. So if you're a white wine lover, you'll love it. And then that aftertaste, if you like, again, cider, or you like something where, as I say, that it's got that kind of wild honey, real strong aftertaste. So what I mean by this, it's a bit like, I suppose, comparing game to chicken. You know, if you have like a pheasant and a chicken or turkey, whatever, you know, these are the chicken and turkey. These are kind of very mild flavors. The flavors we're very much used to, but game, even though it, you know, like a pheasant, as I say, or pigeon or anything along these lines, if you were to eat one of these, even though they're birds and they're still in theory white meat, well, they're not white meat really when you cook them, but you know what I'm trying to say. Even though they're still birds, they have a very strong taste to them that is, until you get used to it, quite an off-putting taste, perhaps, because it's just so strong, it's so unusual, and you can't really describe it with words. So you can't say, well, it tastes like chicken, because it doesn't. It tastes very unique, you know. It tastes like a strong version of duck, but like a lot stronger. And it's the same sort of principle with this mead. I'm getting that, as I say, what I would describe as cider, but I know it's a wild honey. I can taste the wild honey at the end, but wild honey has that kind of, as I say, because it's wild, a bit like pigeon or pheasant or anything along, or even duck, you know, that those sort of things. They're much stronger tasting than sort of the domesticated or the sort of human-raised element, the chickens and the turkeys and all those kind of things. So it's a bit like that. It's a similar taste, but it's just stronger and different at the same time. Now I'm going to take a second go at this, and this may take a third go for me to really fully appreciate all the flavours and give you a full sort of review. But here we go. You can tell I want to like this, but as I say, it's growing on me, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm getting exactly the same as I described before, so there's no change in my description of it. The aftertaste will start to develop within about 10 seconds and continue to develop, and it lasted pretty much, it was starting to fade, and when I took the second tipple, that was pretty much when the aftertaste had gone, so you can see it's quite a strong, long lasting aftertaste. But you can, again, it's just, yeah, the overriding wild honey aspect is starting to come in now, but it doesn't taste like honey. Okay, I'll describe it as something else, but I can't really give another word for it. It's just a different taste, and that's the only thing I can think of is cider. Okay, so it tastes a bit like cider because that's made from apples, right? So it's got that similar fruity taste, but you know, with the aftertaste of cider, that's coming from apples. It's a bit like that. It's like a very heavily fermented honey, or naturally fermented honey in this case, and I don't know if they make cider in the same way by naturally fermenting it. I'm not sure. I'm sure obviously strong ciders. Like Scrumpy Jack, it tastes a little bit like Scrumpy Jack, just less dirty. If anyone's had a Scrumpy Jack, and I mean a proper Scrumpy Jack, not the ones you get in a can, but like, you know, the ones in the big bottles from, you know, down to South England and all the rest of it, you'll understand exactly what I mean. It's got a dirtiness to it almost that is appealing over time. This would be a drink that would be, I think, very appreciated by people who are a little bit more seasoned drinkers than myself. I'm not a heavy drinker or by any means, as I say, but I feel that over time I will find myself attracted to this a lot more as I get older and more experienced with meads. Just in the same way like when you're young, for example, very few young children like strong tasting cheeses like blue cheeses, or, you know, very mature cheeses like, you know, mature cheddar and things like this, or red Leicester or anything like this. They tend not to like it. If they like cheese, it's kind of like, you know, the sort of the very mild cheeses, mild cheddar and stuff like this, like the dairy sort of stuff, the kind of milky creamy cheeses, which but the sort of slice, or the cheese that you put on like a burger and stuff like this, and it's the same kind of principle. As you get older, you kind of learn to appreciate those stronger, more pungent tastes of the heavier cheeses, and it's going to be like that, I think, with me. I think I will definitely come back to Freya's mead, but it won't be for a while. I'll enjoy this sample, obviously, but I won't be buying a big bottle of it because it's just not for me at the moment. In this point of time, it's not for me. I will enjoy it, but I won't enjoy it as much as, say, like Aegir's mead so far has definitely been my favourite, followed by Odin, and now Freya is sort of, I can see the potential to enjoy it, but it's not something for me. However, if you do enjoy drinking cider and white wines, either or both, then this will actually be a very pleasant mead for you. You will enjoy it very much because it will be a taste that you're kind of very much used to, and you'll find it very appealing. And as I say, it's just something that I'm going to have to kind of grow into, this kind of flavour. As I say, I will be buying it again in the future, but it's not the near future. Absolutely. So it's not a negative review. The quality is excellent, but I'm just saying from a personal interpretation of the mead, it's not what I want. Okay, but on a a sort of independent sort of look at it, it's an excellent mead, actually. In fact, actually, I'd say it's probably one of the highest quality meads I've actually drank as of yet. It's very well put together. It's just not to my personal taste. So if it's coming across as a negative review, I apologise. It's not to my personal taste, but I want to make clear now, it's really well put together. And if you enjoy that kind of more natural taste, that more dirty sort of wild taste, which is exactly what Freya's about. She is, she's of Vanenheim, which is the home realm of Freya, and that is officially of the Isengard, of chaos, and it's known to be a chaotic planet, not because there's anarchy as such, but because it's just wild in nature. It's wildly overgrown, and nothing's really kept in check. It's just life is blossoming to the max without really any sort of control or sort of destruction controlling the wild growth of the plants and the plant life of the planet. Oh, well, not the planet, so it's the realm. And so Freya's mead is very representative of how you'd expect. You could almost call it the Vanenheim or the Vanir mead. It does represent Freya in the sense it's got wild honey in it, it's golden in colour, but it doesn't just represent her, it represents the entire realm of Vanenheim, in my opinion. And it's nice, as I say, to have a variety of meads that represent quite accurately the names that are given to them. Just my one little thing, as I say, Lancashire Mead Company, if you are watching this at any point in time, probably in the future, it won't be now because I don't get that many views, but if you ever do see this, then maybe consult myself regards the actual information that you put about the paganism, because that is wrong. Freya is not anything to do with Valhalla. Okay, but otherwise, that's my only negative, is the description. But that's a minor little thing. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. See you soon.